You keep hearing different answers. One attorney says one thing, another says something else. You are trying to be careful. You do not want to make the wrong move. You're a wife sitting across from an elder care attorney. Your husband has dementia, and you are discussing Medicaid planning and power of attorney documents. You think the problem is figuring out which legal advice is correct. You're trying to determine if you need to be doing more right now, and this feels like an information problem. It isn't. Dementia changes more than memory. It quietly changes how decisions function inside a marriage. Even if the paperwork hasn't caught up, the capacity might have already shifted. You might still be operating as if decision-making is shared, but the reality at home may already be different. Hey, Christian Care Companion. Welcome back to Dementia Caregiver Support for Christians. This episode is about recognizing when something has already changed and what faithful stewardship requires next. And if you listen and you realize something in your own situation may have changed, you can schedule a caregiving decision advising session using the link in the show notes or go to thinkdifferentdementia.com. It is a focused conversation designed to help you clarify what's really happening and determine your next step. Now let's walk through this together as we speak to Doris, a Christian spouse. Welcome, Miss Doris. So we're going to start today, and I'm going to ask you the question that I'm asking everybody, which is, right now, what is the hardest for you? A burden you are carrying, a conversation you are avoiding, a decision you're stuck on, or an emotion you cannot seem to steady. And what makes that the hardest?
I would say decision, because that's what I'm dealing with right now. I just saw the elder lawyer a couple days ago, and so I have some decisions to make. So that's the burden right now.
Okay. Are you willing to share what he laid before you so we can see if we can clarify what might be helpful to you?
I'm still processing what he said, but I live in Michigan, and what he said just went totally opposite of everything that you said, and I've heard on other podcasts I've listened to and stuff. And so I came away with a lot of questions, but he said Michigan is unique from all the states in the United States. I don't know if you've talked with someone else in Michigan.
I have, but it would be helpful to me if you can express what he said was opposite.
Well, for one thing, there's nothing that I need to do right now. That all I need to do is see him when my husband, if it comes to that, needs to go into a facility, and he will help me get on this SBO trust. They have a half loaf. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
A what?
Half loaf, that's what they call it here in Michigan. And that's all done. He can do that very quickly. Within a week, he can help us get him into whatever facility or whatever. And, everything like you say, do it ahead, have the plan, be prepared. And like what he's saying in Michigan, you don't need to do that.
Okay. So in Michigan, do you need a durable power of attorney?
Yes.
Do you have
that? We did a trust about a year and a half ago, and I had him look at that, and he recommended some things. He wants to go back to our original lawyer, and for like, he wants us to get a non-springing POA. I'd never heard of that before, but like I
Well, I'm
said,
gonna
all
look
this
that up
happened
too.
a couple days ago. Well, what that does is, um, it would for people that have been married a long time like we do, where you totally trust,
Mhm.
your husband or whatever, a non-springing, order would be that I can make any decision on anything for him, and he could do that for me. Like, I told him my question to him was, "How do I know when to turn in a POA, like, to these financial things?" Because every time we wanna do something with Doug's retirement, we have to, Doug has to be there, he has to give the okay so I can talk to him because Doug can't discuss these things,
Uh-huh.
anymore. This non-springing POA would allow me to do it or go to the bank or
Uh-huh.
whatever and make any decision that I want to make without getting Doug's okay.
Okay.
And
So
and
what
and
is
you don't have to wait until you get the advantage is you don't have to wait till you get the medical,
Uh-huh.
um
Capacity.
yeah, and so you don't have to wait for that.
So can you enact the non-springing POA?
I have to have it changed to a non-springing POA.
Okay. So that's the first step that
Yeah,
you need to do in your trust.
right.
Okay. So is it okay if I weigh in?
Yeah.
You, you follow whatever your attorney that is in the state that you live in's recommendations related to whatever legal decisions you need to make. Because I live in South Carolina and I am not an attorney. And I'm never going to say that I'm an attorney, right? So if your state has very specific things that it is um, stating and allowing that make it different in your state, then you follow what that attorney tells you to do. Can you clarify for me what decision you're wrestling with related to what he told you? Or is the um, confusion, or I don't want to use the word confusion, or the unclarity because other people have given you other advice?
Yes. Well, listen, when you had the attorney, he was from, um, I don't know, North or South Carolina,
From
and
South Carolina.
everything this attorney said it seemed like opposite of what he said, and I realized he was in that state.
Mm. Yes, so you have to
Mm.
follow the state's requirements that your specific state has. If you have a reputable estate attorney, not just a general attorney, but somebody who does elder law, right? Elder law attorney,
He was an
not
elder law who specializes in Medicaid.
okay. So you have to follow his requirements, his recommendations, because it very specifically can be that you already have a trust, that your trust is other than the springing POA, right? That your trust is adequate for you to do those next steps. So from a decision perspective, it doesn't seem to me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I am a lot, that there's really any decision that you need to make other than the springing POA, and that we just need to say out loud, you follow the recommendations from the attorney in your state and discount the recommendations from other attorneys and other people who are not in your state and don't know your specifics related to your trust.
because I am a person that likes to gather information, make decisions on information, I feel I need to do a little research. He said, don't Google anything, but I'm going to Google. I want to Google Michigan law and just make sure what he said is, you know, valid. I trust it. I read the reviews. He got excellent reviews and seems to be the person to go to around here. So I'm sure he's right. I just,
Uh-huh. There is
want to make
nothing.
sure that there's nothing that I need to do now. You know,
There is nothing wrong with gathering information unless it puts you in a tailspin. If gathering information, it's kicking the decision down the line, I don't have to decide until I have the right information. From the outside looking in, you have done your due diligence. You found an attorney that has good ratings and review. You already have a trust in place. There's one minor tweak that he's recommending for you in your trust. And that allows you, once you get that piece in place, to actually continue to make those decisions of setting yourself up for success for the future.
that's what I just want to make sure that I just need a little confirmation.
Sure.
Not
There's
from you, but I mean from the doing a little research on it.
So sometimes when I get in a position like this, and take it for what it's worth, and I sometimes have to give myself a deadline to say by this date, I will gather as much information and then decide. Because otherwise I will just keep going. So Ms. Doris, what is one step that you can take today based off of our conversation?
Well, I think to set a date and make a decision and don't stretch it out too long.
But thank you so much for sharing.
I wanted to thank you. I have been trying to listen to your past podcasts, and just from the involvement that I've had, I am in such a better place than I was in October when I was on one of these before. I just feel so much better. I was so overwhelmed, and just your perspective, the Christian perspective, the Christian worldview or viewpoint has just put me, so much more at ease than when I went through this with my father, having no clue, and I just feel so much better, and I really thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for that, Doris. So I'm very grateful that people can tell the difference between the world's view on dementia and what we are doing from a Christian worldview. Anything that makes a dementia caregiving journey easier is your trust in Christ, is our Christian worldview. And when you think about it through that lens, yes, this is the wages of sin, right? But once we get through that, we're having two conversations at the same time: the here and now and eternity. Like we're journeying this through the light of eternity. And when we do that, it just changes your perspective. So I am very grateful for that. Thank you so much, Doris. That really helped me today.
Having the community and just people to talk to and people that are going through it is just so helpful.
Oh,
Thank
wonderful.
you for what you're doing. I really appreciate it.
By the time she sat in that office, something had already changed. They still spoke as if decisions were being shared, but in practice, Doris was carrying more of the responsibility. There was no crisis, There wasn't a formal declaration, just a quiet change in how decisions were actually being made. The real decision wasn't which attorney was right. The real decision was whether she would align legal authority with the reality already present in the marriage. That is the work. Not reacting, not researching endlessly, not waiting for consensus, but recognizing what has already changed and responding faithfully. And if you need clarity about what has shifted in your situation and what needs to happen next, I invite you to schedule a caregiving decision advising session. In 20 to 30 focused minutes, we identify what's really driving your situation and determine your next concrete step. Details are in the show notes or go to thinkdifferentdementia.com. You do not need to keep carrying the uncertainty alone.